Yes, everyone, welcome to Tytalkz CFC. It's a pleasure to have you all around, and wherever you're watching from, compliments of the season to you. Today, we have a very important topic to talk about, a topic that seems like that is the issue we're really having at Chelsea right now. The topic is the importance of squad depth. And the question remains, do we really have a good squad depth at Chelsea? Because one thing is to have a squad depth, and the other is to have a squad depth that is balanced. To me, if you ask me, I'd say at Chelsea, yes, we do have a large squad. We don't really have a squad depth. We have a squad, large number of players. That is enough, lots of players in the squad, but we don't have varieties, and that's why we're struggling. For instance, in the right wing back position, we have just Reece James, and there's no other person that can execute that role as well as Reece James does. Yes, we play Cesar Azpilicueta in that position sometimes, but still, it doesn't look like it's his. No, it's not his specialty. He's a right back, a specialized right back. He's played as a left back player before, but for right wing back, there are some, or you could say, what you can call deficiencies that are obvious, which shows that that's not his preferred position. So I will keep talking to you alone, and hopefully somebody else will come and join us. And I will share the link in the chat in a bit, so that if you have time, like Ogs will say, Ogs from the Green Talk would say, come and talk to us. Yeah, Ty, if you're still there with me, I will ask you a question. If not, I'll go ahead and continue talking alone until I have somebody to discuss the topic with. So
absolutely.
Let me ask. Awesome. Let me ask you this question: do you think we have a good squad depth at Chelsea?
Honestly, no. I don't think we have one. We have the depth, but it's not good because you have the depth, but not the quality. That's what I would say.
Yes, we have. No. Here's it. I don't mean to be harsh on you. To me, technically, we do not have a squad depth, because to have a squad depth, it has to be balanced. You have to have varieties. We don't have varieties. We just have players that play the same style. If you ask me, I'd say like about 80% plus of our players need space to operate. Ziyech is good. He provides something different. But from Ziyech to Christian Pulisic to Reece James to Marcos Alonso, they all need space to operate. And when they don't see space, it's always the passes always go sideways and backwards, and that is not helpful in any way. So to me, I don't think we'll have a squad depth. And I think as we continue to talk about this topic, it will eventually bring us to the question, what do we need to fix it, but not at this point. So Ty, really, I'd say, sorry, what we have numbers, but we don't really have a squad depth, because yes, it's a pleasure to welcome Helgi to the show. Helgi, welcome to the stream, my brother.
Yeah, welcome to find you here. And not the best timing of having a stream because of the draw, but yeah, always a pleasure.
Yeah, and it's a hard, it's a hard, a heartbreak for all of us Chelsea fans. And like we say during the pre-game show, that the weaker the team, the more I am fearful for Chelsea, and it just seemed as if it's not. It happened really. So now, Helgi, the question for you. We understand. I know you already know the importance of squad depth, because you cannot win anything if you don't have a squad depth. So the question for you is: at Chelsea, do we really have a good? Do we have a good enough? Do we have squad depth? Let me just phrase it like that.
I think with Lukaku's addition, we have a good enough squad depth to comfortably secure a top four spot. But I really doubt that we have a good enough squad depth to compete for the title in consistent basis. So if we see, for example, Man City, which are the benchmark in this exact aspect, like squad depth, they practically have two different teams. So in this period, in the hectic time of the year, even though they didn't manage to sign a striker in summer due to Daniel Levy reluctance to offload Kane, they still have a great bunch of players in terms of rotating them and possessing Pep and like presenting Pep with a high number of quality options. So we aren't here yet. Maybe even Liverpool isn't there yet. Divock Origi has more often than not saved them. So yeah, I think that we have a good squad depth in normal circumstances to secure the top four spot, maybe even the second spot if we push ourselves to the limit. But I doubt that we have a good enough squad depth to compete for the title. And this is an opinion not just based on the COVID and the injury situation that we have had, because it's luck which decides the most of it. Like the injuries we have had, the COVID situation is unprecedented practically. But even in normal situation, I really doubt it that we have, like Man City, two different teams which can make us compete for everything, and without losing our compactness and togetherness in the team. So you can see even one change can really affect the tempo and the quality of our cohesive play. Like Chilwell got injured, and we have Alonso, and the difference was key. And never mind then if we have other changes between the first team
Okay,
starters
how
and the
about if
bench
I put it
players.
like this? Because Helgi, the truth is, I understand you, how you, that is, you're trying to convince me right now because you're very good at that. But I'm not going to let you do that to me this time. The question, let me
Why?
phrase it this way, because that's a point I'm trying to prove here. Do we have numbers in terms of numbers? Yeah, we have more than enough players in the squad.
Yeah,
Let me. What
that's
if
why I
I
said
phrase
we
it?
have.
What if I phrase it like this? Do we have a balanced squad?
We don't have a balanced squad to compete for the title.
Exactly. That is my concern because most people from outside will go, "Oh yeah, Chelsea have deep enough squad to win the league," but that's not enough. The squad isn't balanced. Not really.
That's why I was trying to
We only
say.
have one defined right wing back. We only have one defined out and out striker. We only have one defined defensive midfielder. And
Exactly.
exactly, and then these guys are very pivotal to the way we play, are very important to the team. So whenever we miss any of them, that's a big problem. And even in the back in our back line, well, look at it now. We're missing Thiago Silva, and despite his age, we didn't have any cover. We don't have proper cover for Thiago Silva. If you argue, Trevor Chalobah can play that, there's a difference. Chalobah can play that. He can defend very well, and he can be good in the air too. But the problem is there is that calmness that Thiago Silva brings when he is the guy leading the back line. The calmness he brings, his ability on the ball. Sometimes Thiago Silva will just beat two opposition attackers by just the way he moves his body, not even touching the ball. That's how good he is. You don't have that in
Spot
Trevor
on.
Chalobah. You understand? And now Trevor Chalobah, despite Thiago Silva's age, we don't have a proper cover for him. The only cover we had for him is Andreas Christensen, who, yes, can do a good enough job there, but you can still see we don't have Thiago Silva. There's no leadership. That back line lacked leadership already in the absence of Thiago Silva, and then it got worse in the absence of what's his name, Andreas Christensen. They were just everywhere. They couldn't defend as a unit. You know, it was just like what we call primary school defending. They were all just going for the same ball. It is confusion everywhere, and Brighton capitalized on it very well. So I don't think we shouldn't even be talking about that having a squad depth. No, it's a farce for me. It's absolute nonsense. Yeah, so you go ahead.
Yeah, but the thing is that that's why try to be as relative as I could in terms of the objective that we connect whether so our discussion whether the team has a squad depth or not. So if, as I have to reiterate it now, if we ask ourselves if we have a good squad depth or not to compete for a top four spot in a more comfortable way that we have done in the past few years. So a good squad depth in now that allows us to be second or third weeks before the season has ended. I would say yes, we can do this in terms of like allowing us some time to breath and not drag the things until the last game week. But I highly doubt, as you said, and we can come easily to terms here that we have a good enough squad depth to compete for the title. Not because Man City has an exceptional squad depth that goes beyond the domestic competitions, but also the fact that even in normal circumstances, I don't really believe that we have enough quality, or as you said, balance, which is exactly the right term, to compete in all competitions uh, in the right way, like to compete for the title, to compete for the cups, and to be in Champions League in the same and competing for all of them. For example, and City does this consistently. I'm taking the comparing our stance with cities because they are the benchmark, in my opinion, in terms of squad depth, not only in England but also in Europe. You hardly get a better team with such a squad depth. And then they were even last season. If it wasn't for us, they like were playing in four competitions until mid-April. So it is an achievement in itself in terms of their sustainability and the resistance they have as a team. While for us it's a bit more difficult, exactly for the reasons that you stated. So we don't. Thiago Silva missed the game today, and there wasn't the same composure and the same calmness on and off the ball in terms of back line. We a lot of defenders were pushed into individual mistakes, and there was nothing cohesive, especially after we scored. And this is a paradox in itself, which drags us to another kind of discussion. It has to do with the mentality of the team and the bad reaction that we have after scoring a goal. So these are different kind of topics that merge with each other. But in terms of what we are discussing now, to conclude it, I feel that it's so difficult to say that we have a good enough squad depth to compete for the title. But I surely expect the team to be more comfortable in terms of maybe even finishing above Liverpool or like having a comfortable position in the top four. Otherwise, it would be a massive disappointment for me.
Okay, I understand. I mean, that's wishful thinking for me because until we start seeing the issues are being rectified or players will start having the players that are out injured back in the team. And then I agree with you right now. I must say that I've somewhat given up, not fully. Let's see what happens because Man City was still, I'm seeing signs that Man City will eventually falter. But the question will be how far behind are we going to be by the time they start having their own problem? If we're too far behind, we cannot catch up. But
Uh,
if we're close to them, if they have an issue, then we can capitalize on the problems they're having, and then you understand, and then be on par with them or maybe overtaking. Go ahead, you wanted to say something.
yeah. But the thing is that every team falters in the Premier League, one in one point or another, because it's a hectic fixture list and everything. Like it's not a straight forward road that you finish start the season in August and end in May in a direct way like Bayern does in Bundesliga more often than not. So of course it will be a point that they will may like drop their intensity levels, and even tonight they clinch a 1-0 win against Brentford. But the history has told us that clinching like or nicking wins against teams that you expect to win dominantly in a hectic period are not signs of stumbling, more signs of having that kind of um, team ethic and teamwork that pushes you into winning games even when you aren't at your best as a cohesive unit. So yeah, your point is great there when you say that City will falter and how far we'll be behind them, and I really get it. But the thing is that it's the half of the season, and we are in a sort of crossroads in terms of where to direct ourselves. So, are we fighting for the title? Are we fighting for the second spot? If we can call this a legitimate fight, are we can, or is it a risk that Arsenal or Tottenham or Man United can follow us until to the last wire? So it's exactly the latest scenario, which I don't want us to even consider it, that we should absolutely avoid. Like the only excusable position in the league, taking into consideration the fact that we didn't have a game postponed amid all the injury and COVID problems, can be only the second one or maybe third, but in a very in more convincing way that we have done in the previous seasons. But if we do like drag ourselves in a top four battle again, it will be a disappointment in my opinion. And this doesn't have to do with the squad depth more than the mentality of the team, because the squad depth, in my opinion, I may be wrong and the time will tell it, but there is no squad depth. So our squad depth, in my opinion, is good enough to make us finish in a top four comfortably this season. While if we fight for the title, it's a different scenario. It depends on Man City more than us at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, great way to put it. I think it's a problem now, and I think that brings me. Okay, let's move on to saying, okay, the focus of most content creators or Chelsea or the Chelsea fan base has been just finding a replacement for what's his name, Ben Chilwell. But the problem goes beyond Ben Chilwell, and it's obvious today. So now, to ensure that we have, I think we can all agree on the importance of squad depth, and we can all say, okay, agree that we have a problem. We have a large squad, but we don't have variety in our squad because we don't have proper cover in key positions. That's why when one person is out, we have a big issue. Whereas for Manchester City, when one player is out, you have a capable replacement, and they don't even look as if they're missing any player. But in our case, once Lukaku is out, there's a problem when we need him. When Jorginho is out, there's a problem in the midfield. When Kante is out, our defense lacks protection. When James is out, we don't have any other defined right wing back player. When Chilwell is out, we have Marcus Alonso, but we all know what problem that presents to the team. So now, looking beyond Ben Chilwell, what areas do you think we need to strengthen to come out and categorically say, yes, now we have a squad depth. We have a large squad with variety, which is the way it should be. We don't just want to have a large squad with players. Again, I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to say it again anyway. The squad we have, above 80% of our players all need spaces to operate. Without space, they take the ball backwards or sideways. It's only Callum Hudson-Odoi and Romelu Lukaku, and a few of them have proven, okay, they can take players on, progress the ball, even when they don't see the spaces. But that's not okay. So what areas do you think we need to sign players so that we can come out and say, okay, right now we have a balanced squad, not just we have a large squad, but we have varieties.
Well, this has to do with how we approach this January transfer window first, and then how we proceed in the summer and continue our transfer business. So the thing is that, as you said, leaving Chilwell aside, which is an obvious one that we need to strengthen in that position, and we must do it sooner rather than later. Uh, we certainly need a central midfielder first and foremost, like somebody who can be possibly able. I wouldn't say universal because it's a sort of labeling that it's exclusive for Ngolo and he deserves it. But somebody who can do a lot of things at once, like the nature of the Premier League demands it from a class midfielder, like somebody who can protect the defense, who can link up the play, who can be progressive with his passing, who can possibly score from long range. Because I can't say that we have somebody
No,
who
no,
can easily
you don't even
shoot
need
from
to
a,
question that. We don't. How many times,
yeah,
how many
of
long
course.
range goals have we scored? Go ahead.
Yeah, so we absolutely need a central midfielder who can do all this. Also, the discussion about the attacking players is becoming more and more like interesting and intriguing at the same time, because we have a lot of now quality players in paper. Like when Pulisic's name is mentioned, everything, a lot of people speak highly of him due to his progress from Borussia Dortmund to us, to goals he scored under Frank Lampard and everything as such. When Callum Hudson-Odoi's name is mentioned, everyone thinks about his progress from the academy, his young age, his ability to break through, and etc. etc. When you mention Hakim Ziyech, everyone thinks about a player who was signed from a club that really invests in the academy and was labeled as a kind of wizard who could provide us with that Juan Mata style of left foot, who could provide assists from everywhere and from every kind of position with the right weight of pass. And so we have a bunch of players who can provide us different options in attack. But the thing is that the aspect of the game where we have struggled the most recently has been finishing. And when, as you said, when Lukaku was absent, we struggled in terms of finishing. And now Lukaku comes back, he scores, he scored tonight, could have had another, scored against Villa, won the penalty, and it's a stark contrast when he isn't. So it's a sort of radical situation between having our starters and not having them. So I think that the strengthening, coming to your question, has to do also with who we should have offload to make space for those who come in.
Mm.
And in terms of midfield, like it's not so much of a problem because we have three recognized central midfielders and we can build on them. If Saul isn't good enough, and I hope that he improves really well, but if he doesn't, he will go back. It's not a problem of having signed him and he's not justifying the money because he wrong. Ross Barkley is expected to leave, should have left by now. Lotus Cheek is in his lack of consistency shape, which is a problem in itself. So we have this kind of three recognized players and we can build on them and competition based on them. The more chaotic situation is regarding the attacking midfielders. Like I can't name somebody who I think that this guy it is I can distinguish this guy from the others due to this and that factor. He scores goals regularly because he helps the team in terms of finishing, because he can create things on his own. He can link up with the striker. I don't think we have one. Even Mount, when he scores, it one game he scores with all due respect, like goals from positions you don't expect, and in other games he needs a lot of chances to convert. And also, Pulisic has had his injury problems. The Germans, like especially Werner, can do very well against team who play in a high line, who uses his speed, but then struggles against low blocks. He's very good as false nine, but then when he plays behind the striker, he struggles a bit in tight spaces. So it's a sort of pluses and minuses that like outbalance themselves. And I think, the position after the left wing back one, which we urgently need to strengthen, is the the attacking midfield. Well, so we need to strengthen our attacking eights in the sense that one may have to be sacrificed. Time will tell, but for sure the players need, or if it's a mental, players need to ask themselves questions. Then we can proceed onto that, because as you said, you can't rely on one guy to finish the season. So the order of um, my like preference in terms of signing players would be left wing back first, attacking midfielder second, and center midfielder three in normal circumstances. The thing is that COVID and injuries may have switched the order a bit, and I would say left wing back and center midfield are both equally uh, obligatory in terms of signing people in this position, in this transfer window, and then come inverted forward. It's a mystery what will happen with our center backs, but considering that in January you rarely can sign uh, 4 or 5 players, so urgent needs are, in my opinion, left wing back, and aside the left wing back issue, we should address the the center midfielder one due to the injuries and the problems we have.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I agree with you. But for me, looking beyond the January transfer window, I think Reece James need a serious competition in that position because it's not being consistent enough for me. Just when you think he's starting to make progress in areas where he lacked, like not being able to run or beat opponents, running behind them, or try and beat them 1v1 and then put in a good cross. He's starting to do that, and all of a sudden he just went back to that period where all he does is just pass it sideways, pass it backwards, and never tries to beat his marker and put in a cross for his attacking teammates to defend. So I think to finish, so I think Reece James needs a serious competition because to me, if you ask me, I think it's too relaxed for me. He can. That's why he's not consistent enough. But with the competition, he knows that if he underperforms, someone else takes his place, and that's why I'm all for us going for Dest, the American international. I think he would do a good job in that position in providing good competition for Reece James. And so when Reece underperforms, he starts, and then Reece will be forced to always be at his best. So I'm glad that we're able to transition from the importance of squad depth to transfers right now. And looking beyond the January transfer windows, and after solving the immediate issue at hand, like you did mention, finding a replacement for Ben Chilwell, do you have any players in mind that you think will be a good addition to our squad to make us, a balanced squad? Because the issue is that we don't have a balanced squad. We have numbers, but we don't have a balanced squad.
Well, like in terms of short-term fixes, I think that we can do a job if we can snatch Lucas Digne from Everton.
No, I'm just talking about like long term.
So you're talking specifically or in general?
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, the thing is that in terms of specific names, I think that we can do a job if we can get Lucas Digne from Everton, because he has a Premier League experience, and it would be great if we sign him on loan, because it would be a sort of risk-free addition to the team. Like, we need a new left-wing back, so why not signing somebody, even when you doubt that he will be a success? Sign him now and see what he does. If he does good, sign him permanently. If he doesn't, send him back to Everton. Summer comes, you can sign somebody else. While in terms of the center midfield position, I have heard links that we are interested in tchouameni, but there is another discussion beyond this which intrigues me. Like, he is 21 and will be coming in the middle of the season to a team who is fighting for literally every possible competition, considering that we are also in the Club World Cup final. And the expectations of people will be massive in terms of the hype that he has got, and the thing that is the new French, the new generational midfielder coming from France. He establishes himself there and everything. So I we wouldn't feel carried away in terms of the expectations that we may have for a new young signing. So it's January. It's more a moment to fix short-term issues, and in this moment comes for us at the right time to act soon because we have all the additional problems of COVID and injuries. So if we sign him in January, I would be happy. But the thing is that we need to be patient and not think that he is coming in and he will immediately do a job in the absence of Kante or Kovacic. This would be a sort of over expectations, in my opinion, at the first moment, because even Saul, who is a player with Champions League experience, came in, and then we could see how much he struggled against Aston Villa in first game and how he continues to struggle. So the thing is that these are the only two names that for me come to mind now, because the January is still 4 days away from us, so 3 days from us. So the thing is that um, at this moment we can very well identify positions where we immediately need strengthening, and as you said, need competition for our established players. But it's a bit tough for me to mention other concrete names due to the secrecy which characterizes the club, even when it comes to players who have been mentioned for a long time, and then the club comes back to somebody who has been mentioned a while before, and then he does. Even when we signed Ben Chilwell, it was the same story. Like, he was mentioned in the beginning of June, then a lot of other names popped up like Tagliafico and whoever, and then we ended up still with Chilwell. So it's difficult to predict concrete names basing on the secrecy in which the club works. But for sure, we need somebody new in terms of left wing back and center midfield positions, as I said, to raise the competition levels and um, and to help making us a more balanced squad for the second half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot to play for, even the Champions League. So I don't think it will make sense to leave the reinforcement until summer. It may be a little bit too late then, and that's why I see the club uh, making, I think, at least two signings in the January window, because it's too much of a risk to say, okay, and let's just keep riding this bus until the wheels fall off. It is very dangerous, and I don't think Thomas Tuchel would take it. Um, yeah, I mean, it is a concerning situation. And now, Helgi, looking at this comment on the screen, do you know the extent of Rhys James's injury?
He left Stamford Bridge on crutches, so this is quite bad news in terms of the scale of the injury. But there is no prognosis, so of course I don't think he's out for the season because it's not a ligament injury; it's hamstring. But it doesn't make you feel less gutted because of the run of fixtures that we have ahead of us. So hopefully his injury is uh, like um, like how can I say, so mild enough to make sure that he comes back in time because of the cruciality that he provides to the team. But of course, he's not out for the season. I'm sure about it.
Yeah, hopefully that's not the case, because it will be scary for us. But then again, like we've mentioned, I think it's necessary that we find reinforcements and not wait until summer, because it will be too late for us. We still have a lot to play for. So now, let me ask you this question: what do you think we should do in the defensive area? That is because we need another player in the mode of Andreas Christensen and Thiago Silva, who are able to lead the back line comfortably. For me, I do not think Trevor Chalobah does that very well. What do you think the club should do to rectify that issue? Because it's very dangerous. And that reminds me, in one of the first pre-game shows on Chelsea Perspective, when I argued that it's a big risk playing Thiago Silva and Andreas Christensen in the same game. because they're both the only two guys that are capable of leading the back line for us. And should anything happen to two of them, we have a serious issue. But in this game, they did not start together. But that just proves why we shouldn't even be playing them in the same game, because it's a huge risk. So how do we rectify that issue?
Well, what complicates my argument in this topic is the contract situation of all our defenders. Like,
Yes.
I don't know what will happen with Rudiger, even though hope dies last, and I really hope that he will remain at the club. Andreas Christensen is showing his like flip-flopping decision making. So sometimes it's said that only the sign on the paper remains, and now it's said that he is changing his agent and he is rethinking all the stuff due to the length of the contract, which isn't a normal situation for a player who came through our academy, and yeah, it's very strange to say the least. Uh, what will happen with ASP is another kind of discussion. So we are in a situation that we are sure that only Thiago Silva and Chalobah will remain at the club for the next season, and the matter is that we may be forced not only to signing players who can be capable of replacing the ones that may leave, or the one that may leave because they are players who each one of them has a considerable role in the team, but also we need depth specifically for this kind of position. And play, in terms of playing Thiago Silva and Christensen at the same in the same game, whether it's right or not, the problem is that, or the situation is that I would completely agree with you if we discussed about this before Christensen showed his kind of changes of mind before, so regarding the contract situation, because they seemed equally crucial to the team and equally solid, equally commanding, like equally concentrated as well. So, and now it's a sort of different story. So while Thiago has kept his consistency levels sky high, it's not the same for Christensen, because even against Zenit, as we saw, he had problems in terms of positioning and made some basic mistake that at his best he doesn't usually do. So it would be too harsh to judge a player from one game, and I wouldn't jump into conclusions. But the thing is that I agree with you in this aspect in principle. So yeah, they are the two commanding center backs that can play at heart of our back three easier than the others. But the thing is that I want to raise the discussion. So is it right to mention Thiago and Christensen in the same sentence after contractual problems with Christensen? Because for me, he hasn't been the same player, not in terms of talent, not in terms of ball distribution, not in terms of any kind of technical ability that he already possesses, but in terms of concentration and in terms of commitment, is he as influential as before? And this is the thing that I have to discuss. So referring to tonight's draw, I wouldn't blame Christensen's replacement with Chalobah more than a sort of lack of chemistry from the midfield, which didn't allow protection for the defense. Like, Chalobah made a mistake when we conceded, but I don't really think that it was the main issue of our lack of chemistry tonight. So
here's the thing. I have to be honest.
Thiago Silva detached to Christensen after the latter's problems situation. So in my opinion, if they are both of them equally important at the heart of the defense. Lately, Thiago is a level above the rest in this stance. So it's just a personal opinion. It may change because football is very dynamic, but Thiago is his importance is of another level in my opinion. Sorry, go ahead, because I that jumped
Yeah, that's
in
fine.
the middle
I
of it.
just wanted to say I'm not blaming in any way blaming Trevor Chalobah. The situation could have been worse actually had it not been his ability to at least hold. Let me phrase it this way: hold the fourth. Hold the ground. That is, we just have to make do with what we have. And given the situation, he's the most capable to execute that role in the absence of Thiago Silva and then Andreas Christensen. So I will not in any way blame him. So Helgi, I'm going to ask you this question because I don't think you clearly answered my question there. But for the purpose of those that are watching, what areas, what players, you can say midfield, defense, how many players do you think we need right now, and in what areas do we need them to ensure that we don't have that issue of when a single player gets injured, the whole team, department of our team gets destabilized. Because I'm going
Yeah,
to repeat myself, it has happened in the absence of Jorginho. It happens in the absence of N'Golo Kante. It's now happening in the absence of Ben Chilwell. And now that we don't have Rhys James, we know what's going to happen. So what areas do you think, and how many players in total do you think we need, to fortify our squad? Because I understand your point of saying January is not the time to sign 2, 3, 4 players. I think we must do at least 3 players in January, or we just forget about winning anything. It will be a miracle if Thomas Tuchel is able to win any other thing again with this squad the way we are right now. Because remember, there's 2 stages to coming back from injury. One is to come back, start training. The other is also to get match fit.
of course.
So what players and how many players do you think at least we should sign in January to rectify the problem?
Yeah, but I have to clarify myself because I was realistically speaking. So if I can leave a
Yeah,
realistic
I like
part
to fight
aside and
with you, so
speak
I
in
will
general.
always cause you problems.
No, I was no, yeah, but no, we can understand each other better if I can consider talk more in perspective and think that what we can do in the summer as well, because I take into consideration how the club operates and how they have done in the previous transfer window. So uh, I really don't expect the club to sign more than 3 players in this transfer window. Not because it's a hunch or a feeling of mine, but it's because of experience of the past years. So in January, I will stick to saying this, that I expect a left wing back and a center midfielder at minimum. So this is what I expect the club will do. But the thing is that, basing on your question, so what we should do to create a balanced squad, so we be to be in order to be less reliant on specific individuals and more reliant on the collective. I think that we may need as many as 4 or 5 new additions in different like positions. So as you said, we need a right wing back to provide competition for Reece. We need a left wing back as early as January due to obvious reasons. So we are Ben Chilwell away from competing for being big stuff, as the latest games have so much shown it. We need a central midfielder due to to release the burden, so to lessen the burden from Jorginho or Kovacic or Kante's shoulders, and someone decent who could provide strong competition and a strong option for a manager to rotate with, and a reliable one consistently. We need uh, not advanced 8 or an inverted 10, how can you say so, which can provide more goals, but it may mean sacrificing. And I don't know why, and I'm coming back to the end of the debate that we did pre-game at Chelsea Perspective, but it's a personal feeling that Hakim Ziyech may leave, not because he is not talented, but because of, as it seems that it's my turn to sound like a broken record now. But the thing is that he is less um, prolific in this kind of system because he plays more on the inside, and this doesn't really allow him to adjust his body and put onto the ball the right weight of pass. So we may need a replacement for him, and I would be very sorry to see him leaving, but I'm just thinking of possible future scenarios, and it's the same for Pulisic if his injuries persist. Hopefully, anything of those doesn't happen.
Here's
So
the thing
that means I
again.
think we need a left wing back, a right wing back, a center midfielder, an inverted forward, and in terms of the defensive aspect, I think we will have one by one replacements if whether so depending on the departures that we may have. But in terms of strengthening and creating a balance, I think we need four new additions independent to what we currently have.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we need a central midfielder. We need. Let me phrase it this way: we need another player in the mold of Eden Hazard. It doesn't have to be Hazard. We need that player in the team who's capable of pulling the rabbit out of the hat and let us win. That is, help us win a game. We don't have that now. We're very predictable that it's not funny. Let me just phrase it this way: we're so predicted that it's become comical. Teams know what we're going to do, and teams know how to, that if they press us aggressively, we struggle. So I'm not sure. So I think we're not just going to buy a central midfield and buy a defender and the issue will be solved. We still need that player in the mode of Eden Hazard. It doesn't have to be Hazard, who can help us just pull a rabbit out of the hat, some magic, help us win games. So I think our squad, it takes somebody that understands football very well to learn that our problems go beyond finding a backup for Ben Chilwell or a competition for Ben Chilwell and Reece James. We have a lot of issues. Like you mentioned, we don't have any midfielder who shoots from outside the 18, even when there are lots of spaces for them to do so. Mason Mount shoots, but the way he's played right now, he's always on the flanks.
Yeah,
you get my point now. And then again, it's something that we have to rectify. That we don't have to. The goals don't have to be too pretty. We have to go tap inside the box, then somebody taps it in or shoots inside. I've seen games where there are literally yards of spaces outside the opposition's defensive area, and our midfielders will still be passing the ball around. That's an issue. So our issue goes beyond finding a backup for Ben Chilwell and Reece James and maybe somebody who's capable of leading the back line like Thiago Silva, Andreas Christensen. Yeah, I'm really concerned. And coming to your argument about Hakim Ziyech, I think if Tuchel continues to play him in positions where people see as he's being played out of position, or not play to his strength, because the truth is the strength of Hakim Ziyech is to always get him involved in the game. Get him involved in the game. Always involve him in the play. If you do that, believe me, he can do some damage against the opponent. But if you go keep him on the flanks to only wait he will be useless in that game. And believe me, he's done quite some good for himself. He's improved. His work rate has improved. His defensive aspect of the game has improved. But the only thing that hasn't happened is to play to his strength, which is getting him involved as much as possible whenever he's on the pitch, because he can shoot from outside the 18. He can orchestrate great passes with such pace that before the opposition defenders realize what's going on, the ball has reached its intended target. And I think he's the only guy that passes the ball so well with pace in that team.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, and so given the fact that he's such a big talent, if he keeps being underused, he will start looking elsewhere. And I will not blame him, because there are teams that can play to his strength, get the best out of him, and you will see that magic again. And remember, this guy is so dedicated to playing for Chelsea that he had to play with a shoulder injury.
Yeah, I remember after the Super Cup.
Exactly. So that's how dedicated he is to this team. But I think we need to make just a little bit adjustment to the way we play, so that we can see his best. He can create, you know, a lot of chances for us if we use him to his best. Hi, my people. Terrible result. 5 in the morning and still pissed off. I know that this can cost you a sleepless night, and I totally understand. I totally understand the situation, my brother. So yeah. So Helgi, you go ahead. Anything else you want to talk about regarding the squad depth and what players you think we need?
No, more or less we said what we could have said in general and specifically about what we should sign. I'm just to finish it about Ziyech because it's an intriguing discussion in itself. It's not a player which I have like wanted out as some people do, and I have seen a lot that say that he isn't the one that they sold us dreams of on the things like that. He's a very talented player, and as you said, and I agree with your like argument that he's maybe the best passer that we have in terms of creating chances from like even when the others aren't as influential as him. He's a guy who can put the right weight of pass and send the ball to the destination, provide deliveries just in time for them to finish them off. So he is a guy who has your work rate, has the talent. But the thing is that the situation is complicated because there are two sides of there are two rights which collide with each other, because where there is one right and one wrong, the situation speaks for itself. But Ziyech is in its own right to ask for game time due to the reasons you stated, like work rate, improving the defensive aspect, the sharp passing that he provides, the like exceptional left foot that he has when he is at his best. So everything. While on the other side, even Tuchel is right, because if he changes the system to accommodate Ziyech, he may send us back to a position when a lot of other players don't feel comfortable. For example, if you switch to a back four and play in a 4-3-3, Ziyech may play as a right winger, which is his preferred position. He may be closer to the wing, to the flanks, and then his deliveries can be with the right weight of pass. But the thing is that you may be forced to play Havertz and Werner on the flanks, or Havertz as an eight, which would drop to drag us back to Lampard days when we struggle to accommodate the others. So it's a very difficult situation in this regard, trying to accommodate a player and then to change all the system while making sure, being sure in principle that the others may struggle to accommodate themselves. So that's why I feel sorry about Ziyech. While about the other topics, I think we said more or less what we had to say. It's not that the squad doesn't have its talent, in my opinion. I'm really angry about tonight's result, and it has passed a bit of time because I'm like I took the initiative from Mankit's comment that it's 5 a.m. in the morning there and he's still awake, and it's a similar situation. Like it's very tough to gobble it down. But the thing is that I need to see that we lack consistency, and the squad depth is important just for this kind of reasons. If we have a hectic period, if we have a struggling to provide the performances we need, you need to clinch out results even when you aren't at your best. So the thing is that we should become a more consistent side, because at the moment we are seeming like an upgraded version of I would say, maybe it's just a personal opinion this, but Liverpool under Rafa Benitez at the first 2 years had some kind of similarities, like, but they were lower than us in quality. They were good in elimination competitions, knockout competitions. They won the FA Cup. They won the Champions League in the way they did. We won the Champions League even more impressively than them due to the domination we had. So we had to build onto that. But what we are lacking and what they did at the time, and I see a sort of similarity, was that both were strong teams against the big six sides, but struggled a bit against this kind of teams that you make us call the team Charity FC, and I don't want to go as far as that. So the thing is that it feels very regrettable, and this is what makes me distinguish this December for the other one, and make me think that squad depth is very important, because you go back in time and said, if it wasn't for the draw against Burnley, if it wasn't for the draw against Everton, for the draw against Brighton or whatever, we would be equal on points with Man City. But there are too many ifs or buts that it's making us clear that we have a disbalanced squad in this aspect. So to compete for the title, we have a good enough 11 to be competitive against the other sides in the league to finish in a comfortable position in the top four. But the thing is that you need to have the bench equally great as the first team in order to compete for every trophy. So hopefully over time we will get the signing we want starting from January. As I said, I expect 2 or 3 new additions, and in summer even more, maybe to add to the squad we have, and why not to offload some that really clearly aren't our level, such as Barclays, Alonso, Saul, and maybe so. Yeah, it's job to be done in this aspect, and hopefully the positive side of the COVID and injury situation is that it may put the club into a more it will speed up the process of going into the market and won't let the terrain for panic buys and for late negotiations. So everything should be done like efficiently and quickly enough to have our team ready, and yeah, and to make us competitive in that like hectic period we have in January. So
I
yeah.
think it's a risk that we have to take since we're a club that always wants it quick. We want quick success. We're not patient. Even I think that has our fans have started behaving likewise, just like the board and the owner. No patience at all. So it's a risk that the board must take in January. Find reinforcements, however, they know they can do it, or else we end the season without a trophy, because it's a long way to go. So we cannot wait to summer. Now is the time to find reinforcements. If it doesn't work out, then yeah, that's who we are. We take the risks because we want quick success. We're never patient. Yeah, but that's by the way, Helgi. Before we end up, I'd like you to take some time, tell whoever that is watching who you are and where you're from and why you like Chelsea this much, and and I'll make sure to leave your complete information in the comment section so that whoever wants to reach you will do so.
So I'm Helgi. I'm Chelsea fan who has been following the club for exactly 12 years now in consistent basis. Uh, like I'm proud to be part of the blue community all over the world, and always will remain this way. And there are a lot of memories that I share for the club, and sometimes you are like you there are the reasons that make you feel somewhat cheerful even after days like tonight's one, when we had this kind of disappointing result. So yeah, that's what I can say. So I'm Chelsea is my identity, and it feels great when your passion leads you into knowing people who share similar passions, similar interests as you are, as equally devoted to supporting the club for every corner of the world. That this is a pleasure in itself and a pride in itself. So yeah, that's all, and I hopefully will enjoy 12 years as a blue. We have enjoyed a lot of success, and hopefully we'll enjoy even more in the coming years that I will have supported this magnificent club. So yeah, that's in short what I can say.
Yes, Helgi, it's a pleasure to see how much you love Chelsea and the efforts you're making to help the fan base grow in your country. And I think I will do my best. Chelsea Perspective, you're always a regular there. And I see this is not your first time on Tytalkz CFC, right? I think I've seen you here before.
No, it's my first time. No,
Oh,
I have been, no, I used to record some kind of short videos review in the beginning of the season in my Twitter profile. So part of it was published in one of the Tyrone's videos as a match
okay.
review with collective fans, but
Yeah.
I have never
That,
participated altogether in a stream like so. This is the first time.
yeah, Tyrone is very knowledgeable of the game. He just,
Yeah,
he's in some situation right now that did not allow him to participate. So that's why he reached out for me to host it. And I thought, okay, maybe I will trouble you a bit. So I appreciate you finding time to be here. It's not easy. I know it's morning already where you are. It's the next day already for you. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I appreciate,
It's 1 a.m. approximately. Yeah.
yes, I appreciate that. And again, in a few minutes ago, again, if you have time, if you haven't slept, I'll be on Chelsea Perspective, and we've had that conversation. And if you cannot, I sincerely do understand. It's not an obligation. It's just out of love that you're doing what you're doing. I can also see you. You also look sleepy already, so because you're a human being. Yeah. So
Yeah,
again, thank you so much.
I look sleep because of a complex of reasons. Like if maybe if we won 4-0 as you had predicted, I would look
Yeah,
very
exactly.
energetic. But
Yeah, my prediction
it's
is this was just thrown into the trash, but that's fine. That's Chelsea for you.
no,
But at the same time, remember, if you remember, I did say that the weaker the team, the more I fear for Chelsea because the charity FC factor or phenomena or whatever. We'll talk about it later. So Helgi, again, it's always a pleasure to talk football with you, and I know Ty himself will be appreciative of you finding time to be here. It's not easy. And again, thanks to everybody who's watched. And it's, bye from us here at Tytalkz CFC. God bless you all, and bye.